Ramirez. I'm here with Catch Wrestling Alliance, and we keep real wrestling alive. That is our mission. That's what we'll always do. We like to talk about different things, and we'll be continuing making videos, especially our technique videos, where we'll break down different techniques from different styles. So, say like this week we did a video breakdown of some sumo technique, just because it's fun. It's like we don't always have to be doing only like techniques from a catch wrestling point of view. We can be doing techniques that can be brought into a catch wrestling like situation. So that's why I'm doing like the sumo stuff, because personally I think it's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching the tournaments. I competed in several many years ago. So that's why I continue to watch like pro sumo. I think it's really fun to watch. I do think there's some safety like issues that they have. I don't necessarily like. I don't know if you guys want to hear this. This wasn't necessarily the topic I wanted to talk about, but yeah, and I just been thinking about it. Where it's like a lot of times these guys are, I believe, a lot of their injuries are unnecessary, right? They have that platform, and the platform is actually pretty small, so they fall off a lot, and like the platform is like definitely over 2 feet tall or whatever. There's probably maybe like 2.5 or 3 feet off the ground, so or maybe no, probably a good solid 3 feet. So anyway, it's off the ground about a meter, right? And then oftentimes, if they lose their balance, they'll fall, and like their lower back hits like the edge of the platform, and then their head then continues to fall like an extra meter or whatever to the ground below, which there is like a little mat there, but it's probably some kind of like firm tatami mat type thing, and um sure, it might not be cement or whatever, but it's not necessarily going to be like the most soft fall that you can have. So I think so basically, with that being said, I think there's some safety things that they could improve upon in sumo, because yeah, it's like, why do you want your guys getting injured? You want them to be competing, and they do have a actually uh like their competition schedule is actually pretty full, right? I think they have at least 4 to 5 tournaments per year, and their tournaments are 15 days each. So it's like, granted, there are a lot of competitors, but you don't want all your best competitors getting injured, because they build up fan bases, and people want to see them, so they don't want to see them injured, or they don't want to see them on the injury list. So I think there's a bunch of different things they could do to improve safety for athletes. So anyway, that was just my 2 cents. For some reason, that just came up. But yeah, the tournament just finished. I think it was this past Sunday. It was really, really good. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is interested in talking about sumo with me, but I'm just gonna talk about it real quick before we get to the topic of today's live stream. Um, so if you guys watched it, the last couple of days were filled with really great techniques. It wasn't just like a lot of times when people win, a lot of times it's called a push out, right? So you just get the person out of the circle. But sure, that happened in a lot of matches, but there were also a lot of people who were using really great techniques to get the person down, right? So they were doing a lot of takedowns, a lot of really cool techniques, especially by smaller wrestlers against larger wrestlers. So we'll try to do some more breakdowns of those, because I try to capture a bunch of those. Um, there's a they're a bunch, and so I've already kind of saved some of those matches, footage from those matches, so that we can continue doing some breakdowns and show you how you can do them in a catch wrestling match, or if you do no-gi or whatever, you'll be able to do them. So without further ado, we're gonna get to the topic of today's talk. It is, our catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu the same thing? So this is based off you guys. Some comments that I get. I see the most random thoughts from you guys, which I appreciate. But sometimes people come a little bit more aggressive and they try to belittle the art of catch wrestling. So just know right from the beginning, catch wrestling is its own art, and so it's its own martial arts style. So you can think of it just like a language, right? So it's like speaking French, right? It's its own language, and there might be languages that are similar, right? So, say with regards to French in particular, it's considered to be one of the was it the Romance languages, where it's in the kind of the same family as like Spanish and Italian and all that. So there's a lot of similarity shared between a lot of these languages, but each one is still its own language, right? So Spanish is its own language, French is its own language, Italian, Romanian, Portuguese, so there's a lot of similarities, but they're still different enough that they are their own thing, right? So take that mindset and then you apply that to martial arts, because there's so many different ways you can move your body or attack someone's body. So a lot of these styles around the world will share similarities, but are they the same thing? Are they the same language? No, they're not. All right. So a few weeks ago, someone was trying to say that, oh, catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu are exactly the same thing. But usually when you see someone who says things like that, they're just thinking about the submissions. And so when you question these people, that's exactly what they say. It's like, oh, well, there's like a Darce choke and in jujitsu, and then there's like that 3/4 Nelson and catch wrestling that you can set up your Darce choke with, and all kinds of things where they try to basically they go off submission holds, right? As they say, oh, Kimura and double wrist lock and this and that. So they look at these kind of similarities. So say like in languages, um, like there'll be a lot of similar words. I think it's almost best to use like the Romance languages, because a lot of people are maybe kind of familiar with those, where it's like we have a lot of similar words that are pronounced differently amongst like between French and Spanish and Italian and all those. Um, but say like in English, sometimes they'll just take a word, right? And maybe that could be the English can be kind of the representative for Brazilian, or at least modern nogi or modern Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where we have people who will just who come from a jiu-jitsu background, and then they'll just take a technique that they saw from wrestling, and then they'll develop their own style, or they'll consider it their own jiu-jitsu style, and then they'll all of a sudden develop all these disciples to their style and all that. So we've seen that plenty of times in jiu-jitsu, people selling their systems or their DVDs or whatever. So you'll see things like that, where say like in English we actually we just take the word from other languages, say like déjà vu. So speaking of French, right? So we use a lot of French words in the English language, like déjà vu being one of them. There's there are plenty of French that we use, like depot and all kinds of things, right? Um, so um, so I want you to kind of see things like that, and then the thing is like, what would then be the differences between jujitsu and catch wrestling? And I kind of just said it. It's in the name of catch wrestling, is the wrestling, right? So in jujitsu, to put it simply, is like the whole idea about not being on your back. And in jiu-jitsu, it's totally fine to go to your back, and for some people they prefer to fight from guard, right, on from being on their back. So um, that is going to be one of the major differences. But the other thing is, like when you look back at some of these old books, especially like you look back at some of the old jiu-jitsu books, and there's a really cool old one. I think I might have it on my phone, where it talks about uh, the art of jujitsu and the art of wrestling. And so it's like a book that shows different techniques of both styles, because back then they knew that these styles were different, right? And so, but I'll see if I can pull it up. But the main thing is that when you look at these different styles, especially these, I think the old textbooks can kind of give you a better illustration where you're going to have in the wrestling side, you're going to have a lot of wrestling techniques, a lot of these wrestling reversals, we call mat wrestling. The mat wrestling stuff is going to be different from the mat wrestling in jiu-jitsu, right? So in jiu-jitsu, what they call it, newaza, it probably comes from judo or whatever, where that term newaza. Um, don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert on Japanese stuff. Um, so anyway, it's going to look different, and I'm still trying to look for maybe some images that I can pull up. But the thing is, the whole ground fighting stuff is going to be different, and it looks different. So so you want to be thinking of different things where it's like, what are some more of these differences? Well, jiu-jitsu, they're going to be doing stuff in a gi, right? So even though nowadays no gi is becoming more and more popular, um, so that's why they're taking more and more things from wrestling, right? Not necessarily catch wrestling, but from wrestling in particular. And usually it's like amateur wrestling that they take from. Okay, well, let me see. So I did find the book. Oh, yeah, so it's called The Science of Wrestling and the Art of Jiu-Jitsu. All right, so that's already showing that there's a difference, and this is by Carl Lederman. So let me try to see if I can pull up some pictures. Maybe I should have prepared this beforehand, but we'll see if we can get to some things I can kind of show you. But anyway, that's the main thing. So it's like already when you look at these books, especially the old ones, you're going to see things done in a different way. So it's like a different language, even though some of the techniques are going to be roughly the same. Like some of the submissions are shared, right? But again, like the way you get into them will probably be different, right? So I guess like to put a quick answer for you, it's like no, they're not the same, right? They're different things. So there's different ways of approaching a match that are going to be different, right? Right. So, like, check out some of these pictures here. This is going to be Flying Mare on page 59 of this book. All right, so you're already seeing things that, let's see, where is it? You can see that. It looks pretty clear, right? All right, so here in Jiu-Jitsu, like they would say, oh, don't ever put your head in the armpit area because you're going to get guillotined, right? But in wrestling, that's how it's how in this picture, that's how they set up their Flying Mare. Um, there's a bunch of different headlock things. And then let me see if I can't just scroll down to where you get to jiu-jitsu. I think that's the second half of the book here. Yeah, so you're going to be seeing things done. It's kind of cool. They show they show a lot of things in I think the jiu-jitsu stuff like done in clothes. All right, so I'll see if I can kind of pull up some things where it's actually pretty cool. It actually is pretty cool. I haven't looked at this book in a long time, but the way people used to dress, right? Pretty amazing. I can't imagine people dressing like this anymore, especially like in LA, because like it's hot. It's hot. It'd be really hot dressing like this. See if I can find the something specific. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, the art of jujitsu is pretty cool. So yeah, the art of in the jujitsu section, it's all clothing, right? And then in the wrestling section, right, it, it's all mostly just wearing shorts and shoes, right? So again, that would be another kind of like stylistic difference, right? A language difference, right? Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, or at least hopefully gives you some more evidence or whatever. Because it's so like when you hear it from me, right? It's like you're hearing it from an expert in this, like someone who's devoted, over a decade to catch wrestling, and I've learned it from the highest levels. It's not like some kind of not like I learned from some kind of like weekend camp or whatever. Um, so let's go ahead and get to your questions. Well, but anyway, let me just continue with that thought. So it's like when people comment some of these things where it's like, oh, catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu are the same thing. Like really quickly you find out that they're not an expert, probably not even an expert in jiu-jitsu. And hopefully soon, because I have a lot of good friends who do jiu-jitsu, and I want to see if I can't bring one of them on and we can kind of talk about the difference, especially some of my friends who are really good in jiu-jitsu, higher level belts that we spar together, so that they can kind of tell you it's like when they wrestle with me or when they spar with me, it's different than when they spar with other people who do jiu-jitsu from their academies, right? All right, so let's go ahead and get to some of your questions. William Woodard, are you ever going to tour the U.S.? Sure. Basically, it is um, like it's based on you, really. So a gym will ask me to go, and so if you have a gym or whatever, then I'll be happy to go. All right. So I've been to like North Carolina, Arkansas, Nebraska, Iowa. Been to different parts of California, other countries as well. So if you have a gym or know it, or like if you don't have a gym, if you know a gym nearby that wants to have an authentic catch wrestling seminar or whatever, then I'd be happy to go. So just you can always message or send an email or message us through our social media. I should be able to see it. I think the social media is probably easiest. It's probably like Facebook that um, notifies me if someone sends me a message or whatever. Um, so through the Catch Wrestling Alliance Facebook page, I think the Instagram page is fine too, or even on Twitter. But they all should be fine. I believe here on if you're on YouTube, I think they do give some kind of. I think they give if you go to the About section on our page. So if you go to our page, our homepage for this channel, I think there's like an About tab, and there I think it gives our contact information, and I think the email address is there. So so for those of you who didn't know that there's an About section, it should be on every channel, and so that's usually how people can find contact information about the creators of that channel. So there's plenty of ways to contact. And yes, I'd be happy to go, especially now with COVID restrictions being lifted, like in a lot of places, and so it's much safer to travel. So I'd be happy to go. All right, Shahid Kapoor, hello, hello Shahid, and hello to Ripper Catch Wrestling, Robbie Burrows in the UK. Happy to hear from you. Thank you for watching. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, we'll leave it open to you guys. I would like to see if maybe I can find some other old jiu-jitsu pictures where they're actually wearing gi. But I think this, this is the book that I have on my phone. You can kind of see that there's a difference in thought, especially a long time ago, where they're thinking about even just the look of wrestling and as opposed to jiu-jitsu being different, one having a lot more clothes on and maybe applicable to maybe some self-defense situations, because at that time they wore a lot more clothing. So that is something else where it's like even the thought um, even the thought of these two styles um, shows that they understood some differences there. All right, so let's go ahead and get to another question. Tag 1080. My first catch coach learned from his father, who was an American carnival wrestler. Have you worked with anyone who did that? Yes. So I actually was considered like a black belt from So it's not a black belt, right? Because we don't do belts, but it's considered like the highest level certification from American Hook Wrestling. So that's John Strickland's organization, and he is the lineage holder from the Carnival Wrestler. And so two in particular that he worked closely with, but the main one was William Wicks, who did a lot of the AT shows or the carnivals, and he also did professional wrestling. He was actually one of the best real wrestlers. But a lot of times to make money, they had to do pro wrestling. So, but also the other one that, um, uh, like the other one that he worked with is Dick Cardinal, and so that he is actually Dick Cardinal is also one of the great American wrestlers as well. So yes, I have. Shahid Kapoor, why do you remove my question? I didn't. I don't think retype your question. It didn't show up because all I see is the questions come up. I don't delete or anything. So write it again and send it again because apparently it just didn't show up. All I see is your old question saying hello, or your old comment that just says hello. That's all I see. So yeah, go ahead and send it again. So tag 1080. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question as well. So I have like their highest certification there. We also have John Strickland come out to Los Angeles pretty often. So like when he's here, we also do like seminars and stuff too. So if anybody wants to come out to Los Angeles, we'll be happy to. It'd actually be a great opportunity for you to learn from the most authentic sources of catch wrestling available in this country when we're both here in Los Angeles together, right? All right, Shahid, are you typing? Are you typing? All right, so go ahead and send your question again, because I just don't see it. Yeah, so other things going on. So uh, I think you guys seem to like anime. It's I always get like a big um, a big response when I share any like anime memes on our social media. So I found one anime that they try to put some realistic fighting in there, but a lot of times these anime, like these Japanese cartoons, they'll have a lot of fantastical things going on. So if you guys have any recommendations of an anime that has some realistic fight scenes in it, just let me know. But there's one that I found that it's really popular, but they try to incorporate some real fighting techniques. It's called Attack on Titan. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard, or at least the anime fans out there have probably heard of Attack on Titan. And so I've isolated some footage that there's some scenes in particular that has some realistic fight scenes that say like one person obviously has a Muay Thai base, so they use Muay Thai for this one character for her fight scene. Um, and then there's a fight scene between two males or two men, and they use one of my favorite techniques, a belly down armbar, which is really cool because a lot of times you'll see just the regular armbar where someone is on their back face up doing the submission, but they do my favorite version, the belly down one, which I think a lot of people don't really do, or at least I think it's the if I do an armbar, I prefer to do it that way. Um, but for some reason, a lot of the jiu-jitsu people I'm around, they don't think of it or think of doing it belly down. Um, so we'll go ahead and do a breakdown of that fight scene in Attack on Titan, where there happens to be a belly down armbar. So look for that in the next couple weeks. Um, and also too, if you have any anime suggestions where there's some realistic fight scenes, let me know. Let me know, because a lot of times it's just like they're shooting like energy beams at each other and all that. So there's not much to learn from that. Just besides the drama or the story or whatever, just enjoying it, right? Um, So yeah, let me know. Oh, I think we already have our first suggestion. So Tom Drake, Cowboy Bebop is pretty good with semi-realistic fight scenes for the hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, I started it, so I just got to keep going. I didn't finish the first episode yet. I was trying to finish Attack on Titan, and so I'm all caught up. So just waiting for the second half of the final season. But yeah, that was really I really enjoyed Attack on Titan, especially since they had some realistic fight scenes. Um, and of course, like the story, the drama, and all that was good. But yeah, I hear nothing but good things about Cowboy Bebop, so I'll check that one out. So yeah, keep the recommendations coming, um, especially anything that has some realistic fight scenes, or any. Actually, just keep the recommendations coming for any really good anime because uh, there's not much good TV on, so so I'd be happy to for any recommendations of anything that's really interesting. Yeah, so that's going to be I've actually isolated a few techniques. I think at least three or four techniques from Attack on Titan that we can break down and show you how to use them in your matches. Um, um, and so we'll probably just do a series on that, and then if we can find some more realistic fight scenes, we can do a whole anime thing. Um, Yeah, just notice that you guys seem to appreciate anime. So, yeah, I think it's real cool too. I'm not as big into it, but I'm getting more into it because, uh, yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Like the stories are pretty cool, much more interesting than a lot of American or Western animation. So why not, right? Um, Okay. And so then other things we got coming up for you. It's various things. So I still want to do a few more. There's actually like I mentioned at the beginning where there are some really great sumo techniques or sumo matches that occurred in this tournament that just ended. So we're going to be doing quite a few breakdowns on that because I think there are at least four unique techniques that were done. One that was like super rare that was really cool. um Even the commentators were talking about how, like, they don't really see this cool takedown, and this one wrestler did it like perfectly. So we'll break that down and show you how to do it, and how you can implement it into a catch wrestling situation. um so yeah, we got uh a lot coming for for your edification, right? So um, but if there's anything you want me to break down from a catch wrestling perspective, also, yeah, let me know. So whether it be MMA, there was actually so speaking of MMA, there was a pretty cool fight. And I think, and I've mentioned it before, where it's like, I think we will probably be focusing, if we talk about MMA fights, we'll try to focus on MMA fights done in one championship, because MMA fights done in UFC, they don't really allow us to share their video, right? So I get notified all of a sudden that I have to cut out a few seconds of the video because they detected, like UFC detected that I'm using some of their footage. So then I have to remove those few seconds. So uh, I've heard directly from one championship that they're cool with us using their footage. So, like, I'm gonna go with the one that's cool, right? That's being cool with their footage. So there was one fight. It was actually a women's MMA fight in one championship that occurred a couple of weeks ago. This woman from Japan defeated this Brazilian woman using real classic head and arm. She was in head and arm right, and then she was able to get that top wrist lock. So we'll go ahead and break that down so you can see that happening in real life, and then show you how she did it, how you can secure your version. So when you do it, because the Brazilian woman who lost, who got submitted, uh, like submitted other people in her previous fight. So that like that they're both good, right? And you know that they're both versed in submissions. But it's really cool to see a catch wrestling style or a judo style position finish a fight, especially against a Brazilian, right? So we'll go ahead and that's actually another video that we're planning to show you as well, right? So that being said, if there's any other scenarios that may you can even bring up UFC fights or whatever, but we just might not be able to show video of it, right? Because almost like every time, like if I share even a few seconds of UFC footage, they find me, right? And they make me cut out those few seconds, even though it's like not even a minute or whatever. It's like sometimes even less than 20 seconds or whatever. Then they complain. So uh, I'd prefer you can still let me know about it. Maybe I'll just take a still image because I think that's what they allow. They allow you to put like one picture of the scenario. So you can still like ask about UFC fights, totally fine. Um, but if you guys watch One Championship, let me know if there's anything in particular because One Championship is kind of like UFC where they have a lot of events. So I can't catch all of the matches. Um, but yeah, or even if there's some other smaller MMA promotion, usually they're pretty cool about people using their footage. So we can, we should probably we would be more free to take video snippets, right? And we can kind of turn it into an educational scenario or an educational video, whereas we just can't with UFC. All right. You guys have any other questions? Or are you guys all questioned out? Or any more recommendations or whatever for anime, especially ones with realistic fight scenes? Just let me know. You can also comment later. If you guys watch this later, you can always put the comments in the comment section below the video. But going back to the main point, are catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu the same thing? No, no. So just like languages, we might share words, or I think they're called like loan words, um, but we still have stylistic differences and kind of like there's even there's a thing that's going around like because there's one song that got really popular online, like is used a lot in a lot of TikTok videos, where it was partly in Spanish and partly in English, and people were talking about how this particular artist was able to mix the two languages because the two languages, even the way they're spoken, there's all these different types of um, almost like the meter and stuff. So there's different things. There's stylistic differences even in the way languages are spoken, and so Spanish and English are not the similar, and that they could easily be blended into a song. So that's what made this one particular viral song kind of interesting. So just know that they're even amongst languages, they're ways of communication, but they're not the same, right? So there's so languages also express ways of thinking, right? Are kind of attitudes as well, and that are different, even regionally. The slang is different in different regions of the United States. Um, so just know that and especially talking about Spanish, right? So there's so many countries that speak Spanish that have a blend of the native languages that were also spoken there prior to Spanish conquest. So they'll also take a lot of loan words from the native languages spoken there. So you have people thinking they're speaking Spanish from different countries, but this is like a big thing, like in Spanish television, where it's like they bring in people from different Spanish-speaking countries, and then they'll put up a common object, and then they'll have each one say, "Oh, like how do you say this object in your language, in Spanish?" And then a lot of them will come up with different words, right? So, and they all think they're speaking Spanish, right? But it's because of the loan words that that they took in from different different native languages. But anyway, so let's go and get back to another one of your questions. So Ripper catch wrestling. The guy I know who's one of the last catch wrestling guys who's not known under Roy Wood is another chap called Shane Rigby. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Shane if you want. So let me get a drink of water real quick. So Shane is trained by Roy, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but Shane is just older than us, right? And so he trained much earlier, and he went to Japan with Roy as well. I believe he also, trained with Sakuraba, right? Is that correct, Robbie? Ripper catch wrestling, because I believe Robbie is in contact with Shane. So Shane is back in the UK. And but yeah, he was one of the earlier generations that was trained by Roy Wood, the current, or basically the successor of Coach Billy Riley, who was the coach of like all the famous Wigan wrestlers that you've heard of, right, through a lot of marketing. So they all learned from the same great coach, right? Or the head coach was Billy Riley, and Billy Riley just created all these really great wrestlers. Oh yeah, so thank you for getting back to me, Robbie. So yeah, so Shane spent 5 weeks at Sakuraba's house. He lived with Sakuraba for 5 weeks and trained together. And this is the other thing. So a lot of people think that through marketing, right, that Sakuraba was only taught by uh, Billy Robinson. So that I think even just with Robbie's statement there, it's not true. I mean, so Roy Wood also had a hand in training Sakuraba. And also too, he's like Sakuraba. What I believe he before he met before he met Billy and Roy, he also did some freestyle wrestling. So he had some background. It wasn't just like they took him from scratch and made him into a catch wrestler. So you guys are learning a lot of interesting things today. So also too, there's a lot of marketing trying to spin some kind of narrative about a lot of these wrestlers or a lot of the people trying to claim certain things. So um, yeah, so we got another comment here from Ripper Catch Wrestling. Yeah, his primary Japanese wrestling coach was an Olympic gold medalist. So talking about Sakuraba. All right, so Sakuraba had already a kind of a good pedigree or whatever, a good background, and then he started getting into the pro wrestling stuff and the catch wrestling stuff. But he wasn't only taught by Billy Robinson; he was also taught by Roy Wood. And we see how Shane Rigby, who is one of Roy Wood's students, trained and lived with him for 5 weeks. Um, so, um, so there you have it, right? There's another revelation. There's another thing you guys learned by listening to this stream, right? Listening or watching, right? So hopefully, so you're welcome. You're welcome. Sorry if it destroyed your fantasy, but um, we're all about like reality, really. So catch wrestling is its own style, and there's a lot of marketing that goes into making people believe certain wrestlers are great and whatnot, or certain wrestlers only trained with some other person or whatever, when that isn't necessarily the truth. And also too, it's like one sad thing is that I've seen through a lot of marketing where uh, people try to negate the quality of Roy Wood. His coaching or his teaching, it's excellent, and there's and so he was the chosen by Billy Riley to be his successor, right? So after Billy Riley retired, he would continue to go to the gym, and he would watch Roy Wood coach, and they would talk about different coaching strategies and whatnot. So Roy Wood is great. right? So, regardless of whatever marketing you might find online saying otherwise, because I've seen it personally. So, yeah, people trying to tear down Wigan, which is like they're trying to sell their own catch wrestling thing, and then they try to tear down Wigan. It is ridiculous. Right. Yeah, and so then also, so Shane Rigby is one of Roy Wood's earlier students, right? And yeah, he's still alive, and he's living in. Oh, he still lives in Wigan, right? So hopefully, Robbie Ripper Catch Wrestling can be getting us some photos or some footage of him training now that UK is opening back up to allowing their gyms and stuff to be open. Uh, so hopefully you can go out there and train with Shane and you know, give us some like some footage or some photos. See if you can't get Shane to say a few words, right? Because all this stuff is really cool catch wrestling history that I think everyone here might like. Um, all right. So just know we're also on Twitch. We also have, if you're listening to the podcast, we have a podcast. So what we usually do is I take the audio of the live stream that's on Twitch and YouTube, and then put it up as a podcast version. So you're free to. So if you didn't know that that I do the podcast version, um, I do, right? So just know it's available on any podcast platform. All right. So whether it be um, um, like if you have an iPhone or whatever, it should be on there. Also, too, with on Spotify and whatnot, and Google Podcasts and stuff, it's available. Yeah. Okay. So Robbie. So it says, I believe Shane's brother Darren also knows catch wrestling. Okay, cool. Hopefully they both trained with Roy. Um, okay, so then we'll go ahead and call it for today. It's been over 40 minutes. So again, your homework. Uh, if you have any questions about any type of fight scene in anime or even any type of other martial art where there's some grappling involved. So even if it's like say like Chinese kickboxing or whatever, that's totally fine. Um, because Chinese kickboxing has some wrestling in it, or it has like some takedowns and stuff. So if you have any questions about how you can apply some cool throw or something or some cool takedown into catch wrestling, you just let me know. MMA stuff, whatever you guys are interested in, we'll do a breakdown for you because I think that stuff is fun, and I think I just happen to like that anime in particular, Attack on Titan, had some realistic fight scenes because when you look at like I said, when you look at animes, usually it's like really fantastical. So you have people shooting laser beams and whatever energy beams out of their hands at each other, which is cool. It's cool and all, but but it's kind of interesting when you see some realistic fight moves, and in particular, a fight move that I use a lot or that I like a lot, the belly down armbar. So we'll make sure to do a breakdown on a lot of these different things. There was also kind of like a leg lock attempt, or at least an entry into a leg lock. So I'll show you. I think I'll show you that, and they how they kind of messed it up, or not necessarily messed it up, but they try the character did something else when he could have ripped off this guy's leg, or whatever. Instead, he used it to kind of create distance, which kind of reminds me of like maybe a jiu-jitsu school where they're following the IBJJF rules, where lower belts can't do um, like some leg locks. So like they'll even teach where they start kind of like the leg entanglement, where they can get into like a heel hook position, but they'll use it to get up. Right. So that's kind of what happened in Attack on Titan. So we'll go ahead and break that down. So I'll show you the move, and instead of getting up, if you don't want to get up, if you want to continue to attack the leg lock or the foot lock or ankle lock, then I'll show you how to do that as well. So that's stuff that's coming up. So hopefully you guys enjoy all that. I think right now the next video will be another sumo one because like I said, there's a lot of really cool sumo techniques that just happened a few days ago. So we'll work on that, and then we'll get on Attack on Titan and some MMA stuff for you. All right. So thank you for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, again, in the comment section. So thank you for watching. Well, and we're gonna keep real wrestling alive thanks to you.